Hello everyone, welcome to this lecture series on CFD modeling using ANSYS Fluent. In this particular lecture we will study in detail what do we mean by interface, sources and additional variables, and how to set them up in CFX software, what is the use of interfaces, sources, etc., and the detailed case setup with some of the examples and demos. So this lecture, the first part of this lecture is dedicated to domain interfaces in CFX and setting them up. First we will see what do we mean by domain interfaces. So interfaces are basically entities which connect multiple domains together in CFX. An example here is something like this, and this forms the interface connecting these two domains if they are named as separate domains. So the mesh can look something like this, where we say that the mesh is non-conformal. Mesh on one side of the interface is different as compared to the other, and they do not connect node to node. That is also possible when we have interfaces, as well as something like this in turbo machinery, where we have stator and rotor meshes meeting along the interface, and there has to be a momentum transfer across the interface. So they are basically used for connections of mismatched meshes. So domain interfaces are basically used for connecting mismatched mesh hex to tet, for example, and they are also used for changes in the reference frame between domains, which is usually applicable in turbo machinery applications. And they connect different types of domains together. Like if we have fluid to solid, then to connect those two domains together we have interfaces. So whenever we have different domains having different physics or materials, we have to have interface. Also when we have frame change models, we have to have interface, and in order to connect mismatch or non-conformal mesh, we have to have interface defined. There are also periodic interfaces between regions, which we'll see what they are used for. So how do we create domain interfaces? For the first thing we have to do is basically click on flow analysis and say insert. When we say insert within the simulation flow analysis, we have an option called as insert domain interface. When you click on that, we first thing that CFX will ask us is to name the domain interface, and once that is named, it will open up a detailed panel for setting up of domain interfaces. So this is the panel that is used for setting up domain interfaces, which opens up, and once we set this up and press create or apply, then the domain interface is created. We will study that particular panel in detail, but before that, what do we have to understand is interface boundaries are created automatically for each domain interface, which means that that CFX automatically creates boundaries for each domain interface, and that is located at the if you have different meshes joined together, that is located in the domain interface here. So if we set up the domain interface, the boundaries that are necessary in different domains for the domain interface directly become activated in the individual domain. So here, since we have inserted a domain interface, it will insert two boundaries into the domains which are connected by interface. If you observe carefully, there were there are only two boundaries here in inlet flange, and there are two boundaries in reactor domain. But since after we have created domain interface, additional boundaries are put into each domain. In inlet flange, there is a boundary called domain interface side 1, and in reactor domain, there is a interface boundary called domain interface side 2. So this is what happens, and additional boundaries are placed into each domain which are connected by the domain interface that we create. So let us study that domain interface panel in detail now. The first input is basically what domain types will be connected, which means whether we have to connect fluid to fluid, or fluid to porous, or fluid to solid, and solid to solid, all different types. So we have to select here what the two domains are. Are they both fluid, or is one of them fluid, other is solid? Is one of them fluid, other is porous? And this defines the interface type. Next is what regions will be interfaced, which means which are the two domains which we want to connect by the interface. We have to select those two domains and the regions of those two domains. So first setting is what will be connected. what type of domains will be connected, and next is how they have to be connected. So the middle section is basically interface models, which specifies how the two domains will be connected. Different interface models that are present, different connection settings that are present appear here. And the last one is the mesh connect option, which decides how the mesh should be connected, or what sort of interpolation of mesh should be done. That is selected here. So to overview the panel, first is basically what type of domains are to be connected, what are those domains, and select those domains. The middle section is how the domains will be connected, what are the different interface models, and the last section is what are the different mesh connection options.